there for a minute.
Yeah, did you have to end up doing it?
I did. I did. I think he was just clicking on the wrong button. Just let's
Commissioner Footer, did you see the oh sorry, I'm just seeing the closed captioning just auto-generate in front of me and I was confused for a second. Did you see the message from Mr. Mixon in the chat?
I look at it now. Um, I do not have Pinko's Tacos on the agenda this evening, but Commissioner Ray, is that something that your
it's one.
committee's
It is. Yeah, we could either talk about it during my area. I think. Well, we can talk about it during my area, or he can bring it up during the general announcement section. I'm going to look real fast what their deadline was.
okay? Thank you for your question, Mr. Mixon, and the deadline is April 1st. Mr. Mixon just mentioned.
Oh, well, then there we go.
Mr. Mixon, I would just recommend if you don't mind sticking around when we get to Commissioner Ray's committee updates, he can address it there. And if you have something that you'd like to discuss specifically around that, I'd recommend that you use that time. The committee that I'm referring to is the Zoning and Economic Development Committee. So please stick around and we'd love to chat with you about it. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We're going to give it another minute or two for some of our colleagues to get on the line, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, we are 2 minutes after, so why don't we go ahead and get started? I do know that two commissioners are not going to be able to join us this evening, and one commissioner said that they were going to be about 5 minutes late. So I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All righty. I now call, oh, and we're recording, yes?
Yes.
Great. I now call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Welcome to ANC 1E's March General Body Meeting. A few administrative notes. Today's meeting is being recorded. Closed caption is available for each user by clicking the button on the toolbar below. Please submit questions through the Q&A function, also located on the toolbar below. Commissioners will be keeping an eye on the Q&A throughout the evening. If you're calling in rather than participating through the web, you may raise your hand dialing *9. I will now ask Secretary Jacobson to please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair Footer. Commissioner Gallagher. Commissioner Gallagher does not seem to be present. Commissioner Lancaster. Do not see Commissioner Lancaster either. Commissioner Ray.
Here.
Commissioner Brown. I don't see her either. Commissioner Newland.
Present.
Commissioner Jacobson. That's me, present, and Commissioner Footer.
Present.
All right, with 4 of 7 seated commissioners in attendance, we have a quorum.
Awesome. And Commissioner Jacobson, Commissioner Gallagher is the one who mentioned he was going to be a couple minutes late. So if you don't mind just keeping an eye on the attendance, so we can bring him up when he gets here. All right. Per DC law, the ANC1E meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, social media, website, and e-calendar. I will now move to approval of the agenda, but beforehand, I will walk through it all. So this evening, we will start off with our consent agenda, where we have 3 items: the approval of the February public meeting minutes, approval of commissioners' purchase business cards from Basecamp, and then a resolution written by Commissioner Brown. It's a letter supporting the Ethiopian Day and Reggae Capital. Then we'll go to community announcements and presentations, where we have 2 special guests this evening: Council Member Brianne Nadeau from Ward 1 and Belinda Perry from the Office of Campaign Finance to talk about traditional and fair election campaign finance program. Then we'll go to official business, where each of the standing committees will walk through their updates from the month. And we have 3 resolutions to be considered, 1 in each of the committees. And then we have in other business a additional resolution that Commissioner Ray will be guiding. Is there anything else that people would like to, or any additions to the agenda that people would like to propose? All right, seeing none, I'll now accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion with unanimous consent that we approve the agenda as written.
Thank you very much. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. All right, now to the consent agenda. Just a reminder that all matters listed under consent are considered by the commission to be routine and will be enacted by 1 motion. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. The consent agenda includes, as I mentioned before, well, I won't read it again, I've already read it. Are there any items within the consent agenda commissioner wishes to move to official business for further discussion? All right, seeing or hearing none, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. Any dissent? Hearing none, the motion passes and the matters listed in the consent agenda are adopted. All right, now we are moving along. Going to community announcements. Commissioners and members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. For members of the public, if you're here to discuss an item listed under official business, please hold your comments until we get to that item later on the agenda. We'll start with 2 special guests this evening. First, Councilmember Brianne Nadeau, who will have 10 minutes for her presentation, then take questions from commissioners, then the public. Second, we have Belinda Perry with the Office of Campaign Finance, who will present on the traditional and fair elections campaign finance programs for 10 minutes, then take questions from commissioners and then the public. Then we'll move to announcements from commissioners and then members of the public. All speakers that are not special guests will have 3 minutes. With that, and I believe we've promoted Councilmember Nadeau. Councilmember, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here with you. Thank you for allowing me to join you tonight. I will be as brief as possible to follow your rules, of course. First of all, you may have seen a big announcement. The district government just made a deal with Monumental Sports to keep the teams at the arena downtown, which is great news for DC and all of our communities and all of the business and foot traffic that the sporting events drive to the district. So that is great news today. Very pleased with that, and you'll see the legislation next week as the council takes it up. I want to give a few updates on public safety. Since I last saw you, the council passed Secure DC. It's legislation that's going to give law enforcement and prosecutors more tools to address public safety in our communities. I am very happy to report that my amendment to require an evaluation of witness protection programs made it into the legislation. This is one part of a larger bill I introduced last year to increase rewards for homicide case witnesses and provide more support to witnesses, including relocation assistance, housing expenses, childcare, and other supports. This is to increase our homicide closure rate, because a lot of times we don't have people come forward to help us close their cases, even though they have that information. Security C also has measures that address carjacking, retail theft, and other crimes that persist throughout the District of Columbia. Just a few other things on public safety. I actually have 3 bills pending before the Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, a bill to improve the 911 call center, which would transfer fire and emergency medical 911 calls to fire and EMS staff rather and separate out police calls and free up dispatch staff to focus on directing police. This is meant to have faster and more accurate responses when folks call 911. And I also introduced a bill to increase recruitment to the police department's cadet program, which would it's just one more aspect of my holistic approach to public safety. And the third one is the permanent version of that case closure bill I mentioned earlier, part of which passed in Security C. I know I don't have to tell all of you, but I'm going to, just for the benefit of the public, that the Bruce Monroe Disposition Extension Approval Act of 2023 had its first hearing a couple weeks ago. And I want to thank you for your unanimous support. I think that was the first time that ANC 1E got to officially weigh in on this, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. ANC 1A and 1B had worked very hard over the years unanimously to move this forward, and now you will carry the final mantle as we get this project done. Once again, thank you for your unanimous support. As you know, this will bring hundreds of units of affordable, beautiful, dignified housing units to Ward 1 that were first envisioned years ago and approved in 2008. This project includes 462 total units split between Park Morton and Bruce Monroe. 147 of them are public housing and senior housing replacement units, 155 low-income housing tax credit units, which is typically referred to as workforce housing, and then 160 market rate. And then there's also going to be enhanced facilities at the Bruce Monroe site, nearly an acre in size. I am working with the Department of Parks and Rec right now to expand the planning process to encompass park planning on a neighborhood level. And that means the park at Bruce Monroe, the park at Park Morton, and also the work that we're doing to renovate the Parkview Recreation Center, because I think it makes sense for us as a community to think about all 3 of these assets and the different community benefits we want to see in each. So we'll keep pushing on that and getting the process restarted. I know it's really been dragging for both Parkview and Bruce Monroe, and we also want to get the new park in the middle up and running. Estelle's going to drop into the chat. I think she has the ability to drop into the chat, or if not, she'll send to you to send out our link. We're collecting information from folks who want to stay in the loop because DPR isn't collecting it yet. So once we have DPR's plan, we will send it out to everyone who fills out the Google form. And I encourage everyone to work together as we plan how these parks can meet the many different community needs for our amenities. Finally, get me out of here for the rest of your meeting. Our budget process, we just at the council wrapped up performance oversight hearings. We received hours and hours of testimony from the public. Some of you testified, and from our executive agency partners, which is a great chance to give feedback. We heard some encouraging things from DPW on their progress and efforts to make improvements in their operations. It's a big part of my committee. If you didn't get a chance to testify during performance oversight, don't worry, budget season's right around the corner, so please consider testifying. And the schedule of hearings is out at dccouncil.gov. We're happy to share that in the chat too. The mayor will deliver her budget to the council next week on April 3rd. It is very late. We're going to start immediately reviewing And budget oversight hearings will occur in the following few weeks. That schedule is being revised right now. DPW will be April 9th at noon. It'll be posted shortly. And I look forward to seeing some of you this Saturday, Saturday, April 6th, next Saturday, at the Parkview cleanup at 10 a.m. meeting at Georgia and Kenyon. It's always a good time. And I thank our neighbors for organizing that. And I'm so happy to be with you and happy to answer any questions at the discretion of the chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions for council member, Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for attending tonight, council member. Always good to see you. I'm sure some of the neighbors have probably seen the signs posted around the park and on nearby blocks for the drug-free zone. Could you just talk a little bit about, what that, that was also part of the Secure Act, what that means for the community?
Yeah, this is the first two drug-free zones in Ward 1 are kicking off, one here in 1E. It encompasses Bruce Monroe Park and the surrounding areas, and it'll last until April 1st. That allows MPD to do an enhanced enforcement of drug sales. We notified District Bridges community navigators in advance to make sure that they could be out serving people who are suffering from substance use disorder and may need support and treatment. And so that they don't lose track of the people that they're trying to get into treatment while this occurs. That was one of my big concerns. MPD has reassured us that they're not going to interfere with that. But the goal is to address some of the drug use that's been happening there in the park. My understanding is, and it's something that constituents have been concerned about. I know Commissioner Brown's been working with us on that, and we've been really trying to treat it from a human services side, but of course we do need MPD to work to cut off that supply as well. So we'll see how it works. There've been sort of mixed results from the drug-free zones that have been implemented in other parts of the city. I think only a couple arrests. So I don't know if they'll end up being a great tool, but it's something that the mayor really, really, really wanted. And so we agreed to allow her to try it out.
Councilmember, is the second location in the ward, does that happen to be the 8th and T Street? Is that happening in this round?
Surprisingly not. It is 14th and V, which I was a little surprised by, honestly, because I think it's a small group of old men that usually hang out there. But as you can tell, I'm not being consulted on the selection.
Yeah. that was exactly what I was going to ask. Is there any information that they're providing you, or is there any way to kind of try and raise the flag that this is an area that requires their, or are they doing this or is the mayor's office doing this in a data-driven process?
So it's a great question. We're still learning as we go. We've asked some questions so far about implementation. I think that it's one tool. It's not the only tool. So the other thing going on at 7th and T is HIPS is now there, boots on the ground. And that's a grant that we all work together to get. So we have substance use disorder treatment there. They're still trying to find space for harm reduction work. But I think I think having them there and building that relationship is going to make the biggest difference of anything. And MPD still has a crime suppression team. They can still do undercover drug work. They said this is a tool that they need. I am supporting that, but I also think they have a lot of other tools they can use. So anybody who is concerned about drug sales or drug use in their area, don't feel slighted. We can certainly get resources there. And remember, the Community Navigator program is now expanding to all the corridors except for Adams Morgan, which has, I don't know if you can hear the children screaming, but sorry if you can. Great, even better. Solo parenting tonight. And you might see a blue unicorn pop on the screen any moment.
Oh, nice.
Another reason that I'll get out of here, but Adams Morgan has a public safety ambassador. That's the only difference. Shaw, though, down there also applied for funding from the Safe Corridors grant that I put in the budget. So there may be some additional enhancements coming there.
Great.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson?
And I'm going to ask a completely different set of questions about the potential deal that was struck for Monumental Sports. I saw some discussion on moving the bus stop on A Street and providing 200 parking spaces in city lots near, I think it's the Capital One Arena. Did you have any thoughts on that or comments on that? Because I know one of the mayor's goals is to, as far as I can tell from the downtown action plan, reduce the reliance on private vehicles to get through the downtown area. So I'm just curious for your thoughts on those two provisions.
Yeah, definitely still digging into all the details. I think part of this is like utilizing space that already exists that's being underutilized right now, like with the satellite lots, because a lot of that stuff isn't being used due to the reduction of people coming downtown. Excuse me. But as you know, my focus continues to be on transit. And one of the big things that broke the deal in Virginia, or that was, would have been hairy had it proceeded, was the fact that they didn't have access to good transit there. Like they only had one little metro exit. And we are fortunate because people can take metro to get to the arena and get off in 3-4 different stops and still have a walkable option, plus the bus routes. So I think we're going to continue to emphasize that. I'm going to continue to emphasize that. I know that's how Ward 1 people could prefer to travel. And we'll definitely sort that out. But I think there are, of course, still some people who come in by car, and it's better to be able to accommodate them in lots than have them circling the side streets, which creates more traffic congestion and challenges for pedestrians.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have one more. Is there any update on the performance parking zones?
Oh, man. No, there isn't an update, but I will get you one for sure.
And I've
Throwing me a
seen-
1B question at a 1E
Right.
meeting, man.
I know, well, it does go into my district too.
I know it does. I know it does. You have every right to ask, sir. I will get you the answer.
And I know that your office has been working with DDOT, and they've included us on email chains, and they said DDOT had mentioned to your office that they would get back in touch by February, and I know it just has come and gone. So
yeah, it's March. It's almost April.
Yeah,
all right, we'll get on that. Yeah, they switched project managers on us. I think that's probably part of the lag, but we'll get back on it. It's a big priority, and was just at the Shaw Main Street annual meeting talking about getting that community improvement district set up. So
nice. Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Commissioners, any other final questions? All right.
It looks like the
Before-
Q&A is just Estelle leaving you links. So
Yes. And I will just ask members of the public, if you have any questions for the council member, please signify by raising your hand.
hi, friends. It's a small group tonight. Should keep your meeting moving, though.
I don't see any hands. So council member, I think
I
that's
wowed them.
it.
They're
You
speechless.
did. You were very, very thorough.
Thank you. We'll get back to you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, about your question on the parking. And thank you all very much. Stay tuned on the arena stuff. Happy to keep talking, Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you
Take
very
care.
much. Have a great evening.
You too.
All right. Moving right along, our next presentation is with Belinda Perry, who I see is with us. If we could bring her up to the panel with the Office of Campaign Finance. All right. Ms. Perry, can you hear us? Ms. Perry, if you can hear us, you are on mute.
To unmute. There we go. I'm unmuted.
Hello, welcome.
And let me start my video. There I go. I'm live. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair and fellow commissioners. Thank you for having me this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present some information to you tonight on the Office of Campaign Finance, which you're all aware of, but sometimes there are some nuanced information. Generally, there's a lot more to report on the new advent of the Fair Elections Program. So I'm just going to start with the basics for those that may not know. The Office of Campaign Finance is divided into 5 parts, and that is the traditional financing part, the Fair Elections Program Division, the Records Division, and the Training Division, which Ms. Ramsey has put together and bought our meetings and talks with you, the ANC commission offices. So we appreciate that. And then there's also the Office of General Counsel. So I'm a member of the Office of General Counsel since 2019, and the Office of General Counsel is involved in voluntary compliance. That is our preferred mission. That is our mandate. We are also involved in enforcement, but the main objective is voluntary compliance, and they also offer interpretive opinions. And so you're all aware that the Fair Elections Program began in 2019, and it was fully funded on my birthday, November 7th. So that's a very, very meaningful event to me. And I came on board with the agency as a policy analyst initially for the Fair Elections Program. And then we got that program in place. The Office of Campaign Finance scouted the nation pretty much, but mirrored a lot of activity in New York, New Haven, the East Coast, for programs that were already in place. For instance, New York has a hybrid of a public finance program with matching funds on a 2-tier level and additional contributions. We have a pure program, which is only public funds. And so you're probably somewhat familiar with it. And in general, the whole objective is to have access for the little people to have access. For the people with the deep pockets that run things in the past, this is a new day. This is an opportunity to level the playing field. And so you can go out there without having to knock on doors just for money, You can knock on doors and get issues from people and connect with your constituents, which is the objective. And as you know, we've had a very robust first election cycle where we had 51 participants. And that was huge. That was huge. This year, we have only 24 people registered to date, but there is also the general where additional people may come on board. The first complete election cycle, we doled out over $10 million. So as you can see, there are more and more people joining the Fair Elections Program rather than the traditional program. And this is the trend around the nation, because when we started putting this program together and the different requirements for the program and checks and balances and laws and registrations and statutes, we looked again across the country, and we fall pretty much on the high end in terms of a match of $5 for every $1. Other jurisdictions have a match 1 for 1, 2 for 1. Some jurisdictions have 6 for 1, and some have 8 for 1. So we're smack right in the middle with a generous contribution of $5 for every $1 that you raise. Now, in order to qualify for that, you have to make some concessions, and those concessions are to get small dollar donations from residents in your community, not in your ward, but in the DC area. You can take contributions for people out of the jurisdiction, but you don't get the match. So you get the match for local residents 5 to 1. In exchange, you have to make some agreements. You have to agree not to take corporate money. You have to agree not to take contributions from covered contractors. You cannot take any contributions in excess of a certain limitation. And the limitations are much lower than the limitations in the traditional program, but then you get the 5 for 1 match. So you're kind of coming out even. So say, for instance, you have $200 maximum contribution for the mayor. You have a $200 maximum contribution for the attorney general, or the chairman of the council, $100 for the council at large, $50 for a member of the ward council, and $20, and also $50 for the State Board of Education at large, and then $20 for a member of the State Board of Education from a ward. This year's election cycle, we have open seats for Ward 2, State Board of Education, Ward 8, State Board of Education, Ward 2 Council, Ward 7 Council, Ward 4 Council, and Ward 8 Council, and also Council at Large. So again, we're going to have a robust election. We'll wait and see who comes in. The last qualifying date thus far was March 6th. So as of that time, we had 24 participants. Out of those 24 participants, 14 were certified, 9 did not make the threshold, and there's 1 pending as we speak. Now the threshold is composed of a minimum amount of dollars that you have to raise. So you're demonstrating a good faith basis that you can have some manner or showing of electability. So you have to have a certain number of voters and a certain dollar amount in order to meet that threshold. Once you meet that threshold, you then qualify for the program. You then get your match 5-to-1 for every dollar. And then you also get what's called a base payment amount. So that base payment amount is actually an amount that varies with the seat. So for instance, you can get well, the contributions for the mayor is $2,000, and the that's for the traditional. The contributions for the mayor in the fair elections is $200. So you see that big difference. So the base payment amounts for the mayor in the fair elections program is $160,000. Generally, once you qualify, so if the person runs for mayor and they get the threshold amount, and that threshold amount is a total of 1,000 small donor contributors for an aggregate total of $40,000. So that's what you have to come in and demonstrate that that's what you've recruited. Once you do that, then you get half of the 160,000. And then once you qualify for the ballot, you get the second half of the $160,000. And then there's a cap. And so that goes down in descending order according to the seat that you're running for. And then there's a cap on the matching payments, which is calculated from each previous election cycle based on a formula, a percentage formula. So the likelihood of what happened before, what's going to be predictable in the future. So currently the matching cap for this cycle for an at-large person, council member, is $356,000. So that's how much you can get in public funds. And for a ward member, currently it's $266,000. And for an at-large Board of Education member, the matching payment amount is $30,000. And the ward state board member is $24,000. So that's 110% of the average expenditures of all the winning candidates. And that's how the formula is created thus far. The other criteria that you must adhere to, which is part of the qualifications and part of the a part of you staying in the program, you have to agree to do a mandatory debate. The mandatory debate is with other people in the program. However, if you don't have any contested contest, any person running against you in that seat, then if the party that's running in that seat, same seat that you're seeking, is in the traditional program and they want to debate you, you can agree to debate that person. But otherwise, it is mandatory. You cannot opt out. The public has a right to see you engaged in debates if they're going to get public funds. And there's also a training requirement for all individuals that sign up for this program. They have to have, it used to be in-person training, but since the pandemic, it's now online. So they have virtual training, and you get certified that you've attended that training in order to hold you accountable. Transparency is a big, big part of our office. Our website is extremely robust. Every person that gets $1 and gets that match of $5 that goes on the website. So all reports, as you know, reports of receipts and expenditures are reported on that website real time. So as soon as it's approved, any base payment, any matching payment, it's all sent out. And then each person that files their report of receipts and expenditures, that report gets published online. And then any orders that are issued for failure to file timely filings, there are mandatory filing dates, there are optional filing dates. And if anyone misses that filing date, that gets published, an order goes out, and they're fined proportionately $50 a day for every day of unreported filings. So as you can see, again, transparency is paramount. The money has been distributed. There are lots of people that are involved in the program. And the beauty of it is there is access to so many different people that you've not seen access being given to before. And so again, the playing field is leveled. This is a national trend. I did some research 2 years ago, and there were at least 35 jurisdictions with some type of public funding. And so we're proud to be part of that process, and we're proud to see it grow. And when we launched the program, we had focus groups, we had community groups, we had you guys helping us to determine what to bring to the forefront and what was needed in our community. So our first election cycle was a really, really, really good turnout, very well represented in terms of diversity. And we're happy to see that growing, and we're happy to see that it's a trend that we will keep improving. And with that, I hope you invite me back. So if I have any updates in the future, I'd be happy to share them with you and answer any questions that you might have tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Footer, and thanks so much, Ms. Perry, for joining us tonight. I guess a hypothetical question: what were to happen if a candidate, for whatever reason, ended their campaign after participating in fair elections in debt?
If they end the campaign, is that what you? Is that?
Yeah. So after the election, they have spent more than they've earned. What are the regulations around that?
So if you mean if they run and they lose, or they bail out before the election?
They run in the election, they qualify for fair elections, they get some of the matching funds from the city, and they spend so much money and they're actually in debt at the end of their campaign. So my understanding with the normal campaign is that folks could still raise money after the fact, but I'm curious how that works with fair elections.
Well, with the fair elections, you know, if you have, obviously, this is not your question, but obviously needs to be stated, if you have a surplus, you're required to remit that back to the DC treasurer. In your scenario, you don't have treasure, you don't have a surplus, you have debt. So you can, I think, the time to raise funds in the traditional program is longer, but in the fair elections program, you have 60 days after the election is over to qualify or to ask for an extension of time to raise debt, and then you can get an extension. So it's a total of 240 days in all to continue qualifying for contributions to satisfy that debt. And again, the expenditures are scrutinized very heavily and monitored very carefully. And I think the debt threshold is different for the traditional program, but it is certainly a period of time. It's not unlimited, that you can keep it open and that you can petition for future contributions under the fair elections program.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, other questions? All right. Ms. Perry, thank you so much for joining us. Just, you had mentioned your website earlier. Do you mind just saying it out loud so people who may be joining us tonight can visit your website?
Yes, it is officeofcampaignfinance.gov. And again, everything is on that website. It's rather robust, and you can Also contact our operational manager, Wesley Williams, or Ms. Camille Key for any information. Ms. Camille Key is the new policy manager that came in that replaced Wesley Williams, who some of you probably know. And so our office is growing. And again, she's very open and very accommodating to reach out to answer any questions. So you can call. We're not doing in-person visits, but you can call and make an in-person visit. So spread the word out there to the public so they know. Okay. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you guys.
Have a great evening.
Take care.
All right. Moving along, next we'll go to announcements from commissioners. Commissioners, if you have any announcements, please raise your hand. Commissioner Jacobson.
I apparently love talking tonight. Did another cleanup this weekend. Just wanted to say, if you have any issues with getting DPW to pick up your trash bags after you've done a cleanup, you can always reach out to the Office of the Clean City, and their director has been very helpful. So happy to share that contact information with folks and collaborate on cleanups with other people that might be in the meeting.
Thank you. Others, Commissioner Ray.
I'll just make a general announcement for those that haven't already. Please do go to our website and sign up for our newsletter at anc1e.org. It is how we communicate out meetings that we are holding. It is probably one of the best ways to know what we're up to, as well as looking at our website, because that is, of course, where we put everything on our calendar. But if you are not getting those announcements, then you are probably not necessarily going to notice or get notice about projects or things that are going on in your neighborhood. But then you can also follow us on Twitter, where we tend to post a lot of this stuff as well, at ANC_1E. So thanks very much and have a good evening.
I have a couple of things. I will try to be very brief. On Monday, April 1st, I'm hosting a community meeting with DPW at their Bryant Street facility. There are a couple of neighbors who have been having some disruption with the facility, doing work very late at night. So we're bringing the parties together to try and hammer out some details. Next, I believe I've talked to some of you about this, but last week my boyfriend was involved in some drive-by shooting incidents, and it really kind of freaked us out a little bit. I am very happy with the fact that the mayor and the city council have move forward with Secure DC. But I think that there's more to be done, and a lot of our attention should now be moving towards criminal justice reform, and particularly some of the things that are missing with our U.S. District Attorney, Mr. Graves. And so Commissioner Newland and I are going to have a meeting with Eleanor Holmes Norton in April to discuss a bill that she introduced 2 years ago, trying to amend the Home Rule Act, giving the district the ability to elect its own district attorney, and also talk to her about some of the holdups with judge vacancies in the District of Columbia. So more to come on that. Just a reminder that the mayor, as the council member had mentioned, the mayor's office is going to be presenting their budget. And so looking at the calendar last year, they're going to come to the ANCs to give a budget presentation. And they came to our ANC in April. So just a heads up that next month we can probably expect that they will come. Last year, it was about 30 minutes that they came. So please start to prepare for any questions or presentation on the mayor's budget during our next ANC meeting. The Bruce Monroe Q&A, I sent it around to everybody. So I asked if you guys could take a quick look and see if there's any edits or anything else that you think might be missing. And if you could get back to me by Friday, I'd like to send it over to DIMPED so they can start kind of hammering away at it. A reminder that the DC Auditor Survey asking for feedback on what government programs and services to focus on is due next Tuesday, April 2nd. And then a quick construction update. The two parcels that are Howard University parcels that are supposed to be redeveloped that are in my S&D have been delayed. Right now, the best estimates that the developers have been able to give is about July. And so in May, we are going to have a community meeting to try and just help people understand what the construction plans are going to be. So more details on that as well. All right. Members of the community, if you have a community announcement, please raise your hand and I will call you in the order in which we receive them. Again, if you are here to talk about an issue that is on our agenda, please hold that until that agenda item comes up. And Ms. Mixon, we're kind of lumping in your earlier comment about Pico's Tacos with business that will be coming up in just a few minutes. All right. Seeing none, we will continue on. I'm going to share my agenda. I just realized that I was not doing that. All right. We will now move on to official business, which has been organized into our 3 standing committees. And tonight we have an other business section because we have a unique resolution that doesn't neatly fit into the committees. The committee chairs will begin by providing a brief update on their committee's activities from March. Then they will walk through each item of business and have 5 minutes per item to present. They will take questions from commissioners and then audience members. And we will start with transportation and public space. Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you so much, Chair Footer. This month for the TPS committee was relatively light. We just gave updates on the resolutions that we passed last month at this body. And then we had one more resolution around supporting mobile barriers for open streets events, which is the first thing there. Do you want to open that up or should I share?
Yeah, I got
okay.
it.
So this resolution passed through the committee for consideration by the full body. The gist of this resolution is discussing the use of mobile barriers for open streets events. Probably don't have to explain too much of that for attendees on this call, but basically, if you've been to any of the open streets events in DC, including the one on Georgia Avenue, there are a lot of vehicles that are parked on the street to prevent other vehicles from driving down Georgia Avenue or driving into Georgia Avenue. That can be quite costly in terms of the personnel needed to actually be in those vehicles in case they need to be moved. It also causes air pollution because those vehicles are idling, and generally it isn't effective. So in here I linked actually to an incident that happened in Silver Spring where someone stole a tow truck and there were police vehicles that were blocking an exit, and the tow truck just plowed right through the police vehicles and kept going down the road. So there are these barriers called Archer barriers that have been used at the Adams Morgan Day Festival and have been used in other cities for open streets type events. And there are a lot of videos on the website that sells these, but the gist of it is that they are much more effective at stopping vehicles, and they're certified anti-terrorism technologies by the Department of Homeland Security. So these are things that work, that the federal government approves of, and that are relatively are going to be cheaper than using vehicles and personnel to man those vehicles at all times. The other item that I mentioned in here is that I've heard feedback from constituents, and I think other folks have probably heard this too, that they want to see MPD out of their vehicles more and interacting with the community. open streets is a great way to do that. And so, if we can get police officers that are at the open streets events more effectively deployed and, walking around and interacting with community members, I think that would lead to a better experience for folks than just seeing them sitting in their vehicles. And that is it. What questions do folks have?
Quick, just clarification. It looks like there are 2 footnotes with one this doesn't seem to be linked. Is that a mistake? Maybe get lost.
That probably got broke. Yeah, I'll get that fixed because it looks like my second footnote got broke too.
And the third one here.
Yeah. Good catch. I think all the footnotes are probably a little messed up now. So.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like this one's also off.
Not sure how that happened. Huh.
Commissioners, any questions? I guess I'll just mention and thank Commissioner Jacobson. Thank you for this. You've been talking about this for quite a while, and you've been doing a lot of research on this, including talking to the Mayor's Office of Nightlife, and you've been talking about this since last October. So thank you for all your hard work and diligence on this, and it looks great.
Thank you.
The CC list, is there
we can just delete it since I'll be sending this out to the relevant folks. A good catch.
All right. I'll turn to members of the community. If you have any questions with respect to the resolution in support of mobile barriers for open streets events, please raise your hand. And if you are calling in and you'd like to raise your hand, you can do so by dialing *9. All right, seeing no questions, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the resolution in support of mobile barriers for open streets events.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written with the footnote corrections.
Is there any dissent? Seeing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then our next meeting is going to be next Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, next we have Commissioner Ray with Zoning and Economic Development Committee.
Thank you again. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. We did meet this past month, and the first item on the agenda was the 440 Irving Street, which we will discuss here in just a moment. But the committee did vote to be supportive of that special exception, and we'll go through those details in a little bit. And then we also discussed the ABCA now, formerly ABRA, cases that were before the committee. People did have some general questions, and Commissioner Jacobson, I actually mean to follow up with you on some of the questions that were related to one of the applications in your SMD, but we can talk about that offline. But I understand we have someone here tonight that would like to talk about one of the Pico's Tacos, which was not generally brought up as anyone having a concern. But if there's a community member here that would like to talk about it, I'm happy to hear from them and see if we can try to address their issues. I'm the one doing that, aren't I?
Yeah. Which order would you like to do? You want to start with the member from the community, or you want to do
I do. In this case, because the person has been waiting patiently for us, so I'm going to let them speak.
Great.
So Cameron, I believe it is. Yeah, there you go. You can unmute and go ahead and ask whatever your question was.
Hello, my name is Cameron Mixon, attorney with the Veritas Law Firm, counsel to Pinchos Tacos. Just wanted to be present to address any concerns and intentions, maybe to protest if any existed. But
Sure.
if not,
No, well, certainly happy that you came. You could have mentioned that you were their attorney. I probably would have tried to address you a little earlier so as not to cause any delay. But yeah, the way, I know every ANC kind of handles this a little differently. The way we've been handling it is that, we give people an opportunity to bring forward issues. If no one comes forward with any issues, or we as a commission don't have any issues with the applications, then we do not necessarily, bring them forward. So we're because as you know, the only way that becomes an issue is if we actually protest. It's a very laborious process, but yeah, I think you're okay because no one came forward with a problem. Your particular location has been sort of changing hand. I don't know if it's changed hands per se, but it certainly had a bunch of different businesses. So we're hopeful that one will stick and that it be successful. So our best luck to your client.
excellent. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I hope the same. I hope that it does stick there and be successful. I'm not hearing any objections. Is my understanding.
Yeah, no, none at all. So have a good evening. Sorry to have kept you this long, quite frankly, Ben.
No problem. Have a good night.
Thanks. Okay, well then with that, like I said, there were so far the committee has not voted to ask that there be any ABCA protests. So we will continue as we have been. But if people do have issues, please bring them to our attention or bring them to the attention of the commissioner for which the S&D they are in. So and we'll try to address it. All right, so turning our attention back then to, I got a little window here so I can see it. The address is for 440 Irving Street. This is a fairly straightforward case. The applicant is going to put on a new circular staircase to an outdoor patio area on the rear of the building. The homes on this particular block are already over their lot occupancy requirements. So any changes that are made to these structures now tend to remain over the lot occupancy and therefore trigger the need for a special exception. In this particular case, the applicant even removed some structure in order to help bring that number back down closer to compliance, but they just happen to be on very small lots. So it's not a particularly difficult one to understand. They've been in touch, with generally their neighbors. A letter goes out to everyone within 200 feet of the property. No one came forward as having an issue at our committee meeting. As far as I know, Commissioner Brown has not heard of anything. So the committee was in support. Does anyone have any questions?
The only thing that I'll add is that this is the second time that they've come to the committee. The first time they preemptively, before they even submitted their application, wanted to just socialize their plans and all that kind of stuff. So it seems like they've been doing a very good job of trying to be upfront and keeping people informed and whatnot. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll go ahead and ask for you, Chairman. Does anyone in the community have any questions? You can raise your hand. We can give you an opportunity to speak. Not seeing any. I will. Do I enter? This isn't me. I'll entertain a motion. Does someone have a motion?
How about I'll help you there. With no other questions, we'll now accept a motion to support. Let me get the full thing here. The resolution supporting a zoning special exception application for 440 Irving Street Northwest, which is case number 21090.
I make a motion with unanimous consent to adopt the resolution.
Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Commissioner Ray,
So
anything? Yeah.
yeah, I will just say, our next meeting is on April the 10th. I know that we have at least one case that's coming back around for the 700 block of Morton Street. And at some point, I am anticipating that we're going to hear more from Howard University. Chairman, I have not heard anything from 1B on that application, so I'll just, continue to remind folks that when we do hear how they're, as you recall, Howard University has a map amendment case. We are all pretty good with that case, but LaDroit Park does have some concerns and they're trying to address those. So hopefully 1B will get those addressed and then we can move that forward together. So we'll see.
I'm gonna just make a note to follow up with Larry. Commissioner Henderhan. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Ray. Moving on to Public Safety and Engagement Committee, Commissioner Newland.
Thank you, Chair Fuller. We had I would say, pretty light meeting this month. Spent most of the time talking about this resolution that we're about to talk through, and then also spent some time discussing coordination of different community engagement tactics, including some of like neighborhood cleanups. So I think there's that one coming up, but then just I would say stay tuned for any further announcements from our newsletter and social media channels as we try to do some more of these community engagement efforts and try to do these cleanups more often in a more coordinated manner. But I'm ready to talk through the resolution if we want to switch to that. All right. So I will say that we talked through this as a committee. We didn't officially vote on it. We all worked on this together. And I think that it's in a good spot. We've looked at it. But anyways, the whole kind of gist of this is basically one of the House subcommittees, so the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Reform, commonly known as the Oversight Committee, passed a piece of legislation earlier this month, HR 7530, which basically it has a number of amendments to the Home Rule Act, but specific to public safety, which is of course my committee's area of concern. It prohibits the council from changing, and I'll use the specific language here, from changing, let's see, I guess putting forth any act, resolution, or rule to change any criminal liability sentencing. Quote. So basically it prohibits the council from either increasing or decreasing any sort of sentencing laws. I think that it's especially timely just given we talked about it earlier this meeting, but Secure DC was signed earlier this month, and that would have pieces of that strengthened sentencing provisions. And hypothetically, if this were passed by the full House out of committee, we would not be able to do that. And by we, I mean the DC Council, for which of course we vote for those representatives of the city. So the whole point of this is basically just letting the House Oversight Committee know that we're kind of keeping an eye on these things as they impact our city, and that a lot of these folks were elected to represent, of course, other states, not the District of Columbia, and that if the Oversight Committee wanted to actually be involved in anything that pertains to the District of Columbia, we should instead focus on helping us do, I think, two specific things I called out here, but fully reimbursing MPD for all the federal work that they perform, which is outside of their official mandate, which is to protect the residents of DC, and then also helping ensure that the U.S. attorney has all the resources they need to efficiently and effectively prosecute criminals in DC, which again we just talked about before, in terms of the USAO not having a lot of the resources it needs. So anyways, that's kind of the gist of the resolution, just keeping the Oversight Committee on notice that we're keeping an eye on this, and that we urge them to the full House to not pass this. And Yeah, that's it. I'm happy to take any questions from commissioners and then the public as well.
Any questions? All right. Hearing none. Members of the community, if you have a question or a comment with respect to the resolution condemning Congress's DC Crimes Act and urging Congress to protect local democracy and autonomy, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. If there are no questions, then I will accept a motion to adopt the resolution condemning Congress's DC Crimes Act and urging Congress to protect local democracy and autonomy.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution.
Is there any dissent? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted.
Great. I would just say last piece from my committee, our next meeting is April 8th, so the Monday after next at 7 p.m. Any other details on your website, but yeah, that's it for me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. All right, and our last order of business is a resolution in opposition to the Initiative Amendment Act of 2023. Commissioner Ray.
Thank you once again, and I assume you'll bring it up. For those of you that are not familiar with this piece of legislation, it was introduced last year by the chairman in response to clarifying when and how initiatives can be placed on the ballot for DC. And you know, many of us are probably aware that right now, if you gather enough signatures, you can place something on the ballot as an initiative, and it can have the effect of law. And one of the caveats has always sort of been on that it cannot have a budgetary effect. You cannot try to tell the city how it would spend its money. However, some recent initiatives have gone before the Board of Elections, and they have determined that while they have a cost implication, they are not, in fact, having a direct budgetary impact. And so they have allowed them to move forward. And the chairman feels that that was an inappropriate decision by the Board of Elections and has proposed this legislation as a reaction to clarify that and to effectively make anything that has a cost no longer be eligible to be on the ballot. This resolution was written basically to say that that is an overstep, it's overreach, that every piece of legislation that is passed has some cost. There is absolutely no way. In fact, the way it generally works is that they have to pass later on all the time. They always have to pass a budgetary action in order to fund legislation that the council puts forward all the time. So it's not unusual that things are passed in this sort of dual-stepped process where first you pass the law and then you fund the law, unless the CFO's office comes back and says, you know what, we can cover this with existing funds. That doesn't mean it didn't have a cost. It just meant you're using the existing funds within the budget. So again, all bills have a cost. I don't know if there's anything in particular, Mr. Chair, that you think that we should talk about here, but we're effectively saying that this piece of legislation hopefully will not come back out of committee. Right now, it is under Anita Bonds' committee. She is the chair. It was due for a markup and it was postponed. It was possibly postponed because of the outcry from the community that this is an overreach, as we think maybe that it is. And so we're hoping that with sending in some additional support that we can keep this from coming back up again, but we'll see. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Jacobson?
No, I was just going to give a comment that I appreciate Commissioner Ray working on this.
Well, I should, you know what, though, I did not give credit. A commissioner in 1B, Miguel, I'm forgetting his last name now, though, did put a lot of this together. And then, so we've kind of narrowed it down a little bit. And then, thank you to Chairman Footer for doing some final tweaks and edits and getting it to a final form. So it's a community effort, I'll say that.
Right. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Please signify by raising your hand. All right. Seeing none. If there are no other questions, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the resolution in opposition to the Initiative Amendment Act of 2023.
I motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution.
Is there any dissent? Seeing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you, everybody. I do want to just really quickly mention, because we don't know the timing of these things, of how this is going to move through, Commissioner Jacobson is the secretary, and I know you're very timely on this, but just want to kind of put a flag on it. If we can send this as soon as possible, just so it's gotten into any kind of rotation of this bill making its way to any agendas or hearings, that would be great.
Yes, if you could remove the draft from this, because I have no way of removing that, and then get it going.
Yeah, I have all of them downloaded to my computer, so I'll if you would like, if it's easier for you, I can PDF them, sign them, and then put them in there. So take one step out of it.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Pull the agenda back up here. All right. Well, that is all of our official business. Is there anything else that people would like to discuss for the good of the order? All right. Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I motion with unanimous consent that we adjourn the meeting.
Is there any dissent? All right, hearing none, the motion passes and we're adjourned. The next, just quick note, the next general meeting of ANC 1E is on Wednesday, April 24th, and the committee on the whole is on Tuesday, April 16th. Announcements and other information about ANC 1E is available at anc1e.org. Please feel free to contact any commissioner with any questions. And with that, thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.